Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. You guys sent us some really interesting stuff about Trade Republic this time, so we're going to do a deep dive into what they're all about.
Yeah.
Is it as good as everyone says it is? Are there some gotchas we need to watch out for?
Mm-hmm.
Let's find out. To help us break it all down, we have with us, as always, our amazing expert on all things fintech.
Happy to be here.
They always seem to be 2 steps ahead of all the latest trends, so this is going to be fun.
I hope so.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so one thing that really stood out to me about Trade Republic, just from the materials you sent over, was how much they emphasize their security.
Yeah,
Like, almost every other paragraph was like, don't worry, your money's safe with us.
absolutely.
So I want to dig into that.
Yeah, let's do it.
What is it about Trade Republic that makes them so confident about their security?
So a couple things right off the bat. The document highlights. First of all, they've got the full German banking license, which means they're playing the big leagues. So they're held to some of the strictest financial regulations out there.
Oh, for sure.
We're talking about supervision by BaFin, which is basically Germany's version of the SEC, and they're even registered with the U.S. SEC.
Wow.
Yeah. Double the
Probably
oversight.
the peace of mind.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
the idea.
Yeah.
But it goes even further than that.
Oh.
They also offer the deposit guarantee up to 100,000 euros, which is similar to what the FDIC provides in the U.S. So, that's a nice little safety net. But I think the real heavy hitter here, and something the document really emphasizes, is their custodian bank setup. And they've partnered with some huge names.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. We're talking the giants, the titans of finance. Deutsche Bank, JP Morgan, Citibank Europe, HSBC. Your money isn't just floating around in their system. It's got, its own fortress guarded by the best in the business.
Okay, so I think where a lot of our listeners might be, myself
Yeah.
included, is like,
Sure.
okay, you're saying all these finance words, which sound good, but what does that actually mean for my money?
Right.
Like, if something were to happen, and I say if very, very lightly,
Mhm.
something were to happen to Trade Republic, my investments are still safe and sound.
Yeah. That's exactly it. So think of it this way. Your investments are held totally separately. They're completely isolated from Trade Republic's own assets. So even if, and it's incredibly unlikely given the regulations we just discussed,
Sure.
but even if Trade Republic were to go belly up, your investments wouldn't even know it happened,
Yeah.
right? They're over there, held by that custodian bank, safe and sound, just waiting to be transferred to a new platform seamlessly.
So it's like having my money stashed in a high security vault, but that vault is completely separate from the bank itself.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, that's reassuring, to say the
Yeah.
least.
Sure.
But let's say I'm comfortable with the security side of things.
Yeah.
How does actually using Trade Republic work?
It's really straightforward. That's something that the document emphasizes. So it's free to open an account. There's no minimum deposit. You can fund it through a regular bank transfer, or you can even use a debit card.
Okay, so that's pretty standard so far.
Yeah.
Where does it get interesting? Where does it get interesting, like when I want to buy some Apple stock or, I don't know, invest in a Robot Revolution ETF?
Yeah. So they actually use BMW as an example in the document.
Okay.
So let's say you want to buy some BMW stock, but you only want to buy it at a certain price. They have what's called a limit order. So you basically set your maximum price, and the trade only goes through if the stock hits that sweet spot.
So it's like an alarm going off, but for stocks.
Exactly. Exactly.
I like that. Takes the pressure off, trying to time the market perfectly.
For
But
sure.
stocks aren't the only game in town. What other things can you get your hands on through Trade Republic?
You've got a pretty good lineup. You can do stocks, ETFs, bonds, even cryptocurrencies.
Really?
Yeah. And the document really emphasizes their focus on ETFs, which makes sense because it's becoming very popular. And instead of, just betting on one single company, you're actually investing in a whole basket of assets. Like you can track a specific market index,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all about spreading out your risk.
Right.
Hopefully reaping those long-term rewards.
Okay.
And on the platform, you can filter these ETFs by sector, country, theme, all that good stuff.
Filters the unsung heroes of online browsing.
Seriously.
Gotta love a good filter system.
It makes a difference.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've sort of talked about the security fortresses. We've
Mhm.
talked about, the ins and outs of buying and selling.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's time to get into kind of the nitty-gritty,
Okay.
the real meat of the matter,
Yeah.
the pros and cons. This is where things usually get really interesting.
Let's get into it. You got it.
Yeah.
Pros and cons, that's where the rubber meets the road, right?
Right.
That's where we figure out what's really going on.
Exactly.
And the document does a good job, I think, of addressing both sides. So On the plus side, one thing that really stood out to me was just how user-friendly the platform is.
Yeah.
We kind of touched on it earlier, talking about like the ease of opening an account and stuff, but they really seem to prioritize making the whole experience really smooth, really intuitive, even for people who are totally new to investing.
So many platforms make it seem like you need a PhD in finance just to navigate the homepage.
Right?
I feel personally attacked by most investing platforms, so
Yeah.
it's refreshing to hear they're keeping it simple.
For sure, yeah. And on top of that, they've got a really impressive range of investment options.
Okay.
So we talked about stocks, ETFs, bonds, crypto. Like, they're not limiting your options here.
Okay.
And they also offer a very competitive interest rate on any uninvested cash you have just sitting in your account.
Really?
Yeah, 3.75%. And like, that's
really good,
that's way more than.
especially these days.
Oh, absolutely. Like, you're lucky to get a tenth of that with like your average savings account.
Yeah, that's like a nice little bonus,
Yeah.
especially in this economy.
Yeah.
Makes you almost want to leave some cash on the sidelines just to watch it grow. But knowing my spending habits, I would probably just blow it all on like robot dog accessories or
You
something.
wouldn't. Robot dogs are cool.
They are pretty cool.
But speaking of spending, they also have this cool feature. It's like a savings plan, so you can set up automatic periodic investments,
Oh, okay.
which is perfect for, building that robot dog empire you're talking about, or maybe just like, I don't know, securing your financial future.
Yeah, one or the other.
Right. Priorities, priorities.
Exactly. But they sweeten the deal even more because they give you 1% cash back
Yes.
on all your debit card purchases.
Yeah, if you use their Visa debit card.
Okay, now they're just showing off.
I know, right?
Like they want to be everyone's one-stop shop
They want it all.
for investing and banking.
Mm-hmm.
But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Every rose has its thorns, right?
Oh, for sure.
What about the potential downsides?
Right.
I know the document mentions some caveats, so let's get into those.
Yeah, it's definitely important to have the full picture.
Right.
So one thing to be mindful of is for people who aren't residents of Germany, there might be some tax implications that you need to think about.
Oh,
And they specifically mention the Modelo 720 for Spanish residents, which, just to clarify for our listeners,
yeah.
that's an annual tax form
Okay.
for reporting assets that are held abroad.
Gotcha.
So it's always a good idea, no matter where you are in the world, to double check with a tax advisor,
Oh, for sure.
especially when you're dealing with international investment.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Taxes, they get you every time. The one constant in the universe,
Pretty much.
even when it comes to investing.
You can't escape them.
You can't escape them. Right. But what else did they flag as a potential bump in the road?
Another thing that they mentioned was just the availability of certain stocks. So while they have a really great selection overall,
Okay.
it might not be the perfect fit for everybody.
Yeah.
They might not have like the same depth of smaller companies or like more niche markets or emerging markets
Yeah.
that you might find on other platforms.
So maybe not the best platform for like the hardcore penny stock trader or someone who's really interested in like a very specific lesser known market.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay.
If those are your priorities, then it might be worth looking into some other options or maybe even using Trade Republic in conjunction with a different platform that does cater to those needs.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then kind of the elephant in the room, one area where the document kind of admits that Trade Republic is still a work in progress, customer service.
Ah, yes.
The age-old battle.
That age-old battle.
Cutting-edge technology
Yeah.
versus good old-fashioned human interaction.
What's the story there?
So it sounds like, from what the document says, they really rely heavily on automation to kind of keep their costs down and pass those savings on to the user, which on the surface, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Garrett.
Sounds like a win-win.
But you can imagine that doesn't always translate smoothly to situations where you really need a human touch.
Right.
You need a real person to help you untangle a complicated issue.
Right.
And they actually cited some instances where, for example, if you had unauthorized transfers that were rejected and users were having a really hard time trying to get a hold of someone to fix it quickly.
That's never fun.
No, it's very frustrating.
There's nothing more frustrating than needing help with a financial issue and just hitting a technological wall.
Absolutely, 100%.
Ugh.
Yeah, though to be fair, they did say that they're actively working to improve their customer service,
Yep.
investing in new solutions, and acknowledging that it's something that they need to prioritize.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it remains to be seen whether those improvements will be enough
Right.
to really satisfy users who just really value having that, like, human support system
Yeah.
that's readily available.
It's a tough balance to strike
It is.
because you want the
Let's say
efficiency.
y'all.
You want it all. You want the
Ugh.
efficiency of the machines, but you also want that empathy
Right.
and problem solving of an actual human.
Oh.
It sounds like Trade Republic is still kind of figuring out where they land on that spectrum.
I think so.
But okay, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We are.
Talked about the security, the ins and outs of the platform,
Yeah.
the good, the bad,
Mm-hmm.
and the potentially frustrating
Yes.
before we send our listener off to make their final decision.
Right.
Any final pearls of wisdom to tie it all together?
It's interesting, right? They're so focused on efficiency, which is what lets them offer these crazy low fees and these really attractive rates. But at the same time, as we've seen, it's also kind of their downfall in other areas.
Yeah, it's that classic trade-off.
Right.
The efficiency of the machines versus, the empathy and problem-solving skills that you can only really get from a human.
Exactly. Exactly.
So it sounds like Trade Republic is still, kind of trying to walk that tightrope,
Yeah, for sure.
find that right balance.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for our listener, the person who's been patiently listening to us, break it all down. What's the verdict? Is Trade Republic right for every investor?
That's a great question. And honestly, I don't think there's any single platform out there that's going to be a perfect fit for absolutely everybody.
Right.
It really all comes down to, what you as an individual investor, what you prioritize. I mean, if having a user-friendly platform with lots of different investment options and a chance to earn some interest on your cash, if that sounds good to you, then Trade Republic has a lot to offer.
Yeah.
But if knowing that there's like a real human support system, if that's non-negotiable for you, then Trade Republic might not be quite there yet.
Yeah, it's about knowing yourself, knowing your investing style, your comfort level,
Absolutely.
and then finding the platform that aligns with that.
Yeah. Don't try to fit a square peg in a round hole.
Exactly. Each platform has its own personality. It's got its strengths and weaknesses.
For sure.
And Trade Republic is no different.
Definitely not.
So for our listener, as you're continuing to explore Trade Republic,
Mm-hmm.
as you're weighing whether it's the right fit for you in your investing journey,
Right.
here's a final thought to ponder.
Okay.
The document really emphasized Trade Republic's focus on efficiency
Mm-hmm.
and how that was like the secret sauce that enabled them to offer those low fees
Right.
and those really attractive rates. But as we talked about, that comes with a bit of a trade-off.
Definitely.
So the question is, how much are you willing to compromise on customer support to get those perks?
That's the question.
Something to think about.
It is.
Well, that's about all the time we have for today's deep dive into Trade Republic.
This was a good one.
It was a good one. Thank you again, first of all, to you for sending us this awesome material.
Of course. My pleasure.
And to our listeners, as always, happy investing.
Happy investing, everybody.
And may your portfolio be ever in your favor.
Here, here, here.
Until next time.
See you later.